see the why behind what we do in the summer and why we will brazenly take on any question and handle it in a very open and gracious way, I hope. This is a very famous maxim from church history. John Wesley, the founder of Methodism and Wesleyanism, made this famous. It was a very important part of the Protestant Reformation in Europe in the 1500s, made famous by Philip Melanchthon, Martin Luther's right-hand man. It actually dates all the way back to St. Augustine, which is in the middle of the 300s AD, so this is old. Many denominations today will claim that this is how they want to operate. I will leave it to you to decide whether or not you think they do it well. Phrase is simply that, in essential things, unity. In non-essential things, diversity. And in all things, charity. In essential things, unity. See, part of the problem in modern American Christianity is that we do a pretty poor job of defining what's essential. Would you agree with me about that? Here's what's essential. Jesus is essential. The cross of Jesus is essential. The resurrection of Jesus is essential. Believing that I am saved by God's grace through only my faith. This is essential. Loving your neighbor. That's essential. Jesus said it was the second great command. Loving God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. He said that's the first one. These are essentials. I'll bet you've experienced that sometimes churches and Christian people expand that circle of what's essential way too far. And that's why we are so divided and so disagreeable with each other. Here, we try to keep our list of essential things small, focused on the big stuff. Which means that in all non-essential things, there can and should be diversity. What we talked about today is a non-essential subject. The concept that God created, yeah, that's the opening line of the Apostles' Creed written in 150 AD. That's an essential thing. Everything else, like how you understand that to unfold, not so much. In non-essential things, diversity. You know what diversity means? Okay, now remember, St. Augustine wrote this around 325 AD. This is not a newfangled word, even though diversity is kind of a buzzword today. This is an ancient word and an ancient concept. Diversity means that we are strongest when we are different. That we are best when we disagree. That, in fact, it is God's intention that we don't look at everything the same way. In non-essential things, diversity. I need you to disagree with me. You need me to disagree with you. We need to be able to respect each other, listen to each other, and learn from each other instead of being afraid of each other, threatened by each other. Goodness no. And this great maxim of the Christian faith finishes with maybe the best line yet, which is, and in all things, not love, charity. Charity. When you think of charity, what images come to mind? You think of a donation box. You think of handing something out to a homeless person on the street. You think of writing a check to a nonprofit, right? The word charity comes from an ancient Greek word which is very popular in your New Testament. The word is charis. From that word charis, we get our English word grace. So if you really wanted to read this right, you'd say, and in all things, grace. Grace, much grace. Which means that I want you to assume I don't have it all figured out. I think I spent the first 35 years of my life as a Christian and a human being trying to figure it all out. I am now 43, and that is rapidly receding from me. Because I can't. I'd like you to expect that of me. I need your grace. I expect that of you. You don't know what you're talking about nearly as much as you think you do. It's okay if you don't realize that. I will show you the grace of knowing that for you. Grace. There are things you believe today, there are things that I believe today that you will not 10 years from now. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And you know what? We're going to show each other the grace to understand that sometimes what we think about especially hard things, difficult subjects, they're going to change over time, as we do. In all things, grace. We're going to understand that the most important thing is not trying to convince each other to view things the same way. The most important thing is to treat each other graciously. Even if you say something that I think, gosh, I don't know where you're coming up with that. I'm all for creative reading of the Bible, but that seems out of bounds. Instantly in my head, the light bulb goes off and it says, in all things, grace. Grace. I'd like you to realize that every year we do this series, part of why we do it is to live out this ancient premise of our faith. That only in essential things do we demand unity. That in all non-essential things we expect and want diversity. And in all things we expect of one another grace. Much grace. This is why we do what we do. I want you to take a minute here at the end of our service, and I'd like you to take that powerful, succinct expression of why we do what we do, and I'd like you to pray it for us. This is who we want to be. In the quiet, personally, privately, pray that we would be that. And then we'll do one more thing to finish.